Welcome back to Miller Styles. What we're doing here is a repair of a 160-year-old Lincoln bed. This here is the footboard. Each side of this footboard has four dowels, and two of them are broken on each side. They need it drilled out, then the old dowel removed. To get them removed, we're going to have to do a flush cut, spring punch the center. We're going to drill a hole that's slightly undersized. And there was, again, two of these on each side. Here you can see my hand covers up the action. Got some glue. Need glue. 4 dowels into 4 holes. Here was a very interesting glue up and clamping. As I applied pressure to the webbing, it wanted to open up, so these clamps had to be put on to clamp it down. Here we're taking off the old rails with some really crappy old flathead screws. There's some 160-year-old dust, Titebond. Yeah, on 2 of these rails, they were broken, so we had to essentially just glue back on the old piece. Clamp it down, clean up the squeeze out. Yep, tons of glue here. A lot of glue. Titebond. More glue. Glue. Clamp. I see my fast forwarding this, but it came out alright. Yep, here I'm going to use my spring-loaded center punch. Why use it? Because I bought it, might as well. And then I'm going to take a shortcut and cheat and use this countersink tool and then use a Kreg screw. Not sure why I use Kreg screws other than just pretty much being lazy and a self-tap, self-cut. But what I'm using is one of those DeWalt gyroscopic screwdrivers. Those things are really cool. All right, here's one of the old problems. As you can see, we got these weird horseshoe-looking things. One is intact, the other two are broke. Many years ago, this is how they actually combined these together. It's a tongue and groove system where the female part is in the headboard and footboard and the male part is in the rails. And my great camera work doesn't even actually show it because I'm holding everything a lot higher than it's supposed to be. But this is a tongue and groove system where everything goes in and out. And here I'm doing the magic of sliding in and out. All right, here's the really tricky part. Here was a 6-7 foot side rail that I had to put a Moxon vise, and then I had to space it out to apply even clamp pressure. At the top of this, I don't even really show it till the next clip, but we're going to have to route out a special channel for these new hardware to fit. Here's a little mortising tool, little fixture, maybe jig. Actually, this is a jig. A little jig I made that gets clamped onto the rail that this special mortising bit is going to trace. Here I'm kind of trying to show you the tracing of it. Yep, so here's me placing the jig on top of it. The rail is clamped vertically. I actually end up standing on my step stool to get this done. I'm really trying to hide from the camera. The beard is, pretty spectacular, but everything else that goes along with it doesn't always meet the A+ grade. Yep, here I'm using a cordless rigid router with a special plate that I made that helps out. Yep, chisel scales. We routed out a certain depth. I think it was 188 down. Now I'm using a chisel to knock off the corners. Go Penn State. Yep, here I'm whacking this piece of brass, and it's going to leave an indentation because where the protrusions are on the back of it, you have to knock out a special section so that way it'll lay flush. So doing some chisel work. Chisel. Yep, then I'm using that special spring-loaded self-centering bit. It's got a fancy name. I really don't know what it is, nor do I care. I'm sure you can just Google self-centering drill bit. Again, here we're using that gyroscopic screwdriver. I got 2 of them. I love them. they just pull the trigger and turn, and it knows which way to spin. But this is in the repair of this thing is to get rid of that horseshoe shape that we saw earlier and replace it with a kit I bought from Rockler. I think it's 5/8 wide by 6 inches. Here we're actually taking off the broken piece from the old footboard. Normally I wouldn't use a screwdriver to pry, but I did it for, effects. More product placement, Titebond, not a sponsor. Obviously nobody sponsors this. But I had to make these, I think it's walnut. Buddy from work gave me this. I had to fill in the spot from the old hardware. So I got 4 of them I fill in, and then I'm going to reroute out another groove so it takes its place. Again, here's a rigid router, custom base plate I made. That way it's less likely to tip. Got an edge guide. Essentially, you can see there I just routed a certain depth and whatnot to fit these special hardware. Got to use a chisel, knock off the corners. Here again, I'm tapping it down because it's going to leave an impression for some clearance. There's a special self-centering jig. It's really good on hinges. It makes it a lot better than guessing where the center of everything is. I don't know why I not want to put the middle in first. But here you can see that the female part and the male part go in, slide around. Murphy's cleaner. Yeah, like I said, this bed's 160 years old. I'm not sure how long my parents had it. But yeah, there's tons and tons and tons of dirt and grime. I played this part in 2x speed because I have no clue. There's tons of cleaning here. I could have edited this part out, but it was amazing that, tons and tons of dirt. This bed was somehow from my grandparents given to my parents. I have no clue where they got it from. My entire life we've been told about the Lincoln bedroom. I don't know what makes it Lincoln. I just know it's really, really old. And I was terrified I was going to somehow screw it up. Here's the end cut where both of these side rails were clamped in. So there's 2 ends on each side. They had to be clamped in with the jig and routed out so that this new hardware would fit in. Right where that says head, there's a wooden piece that I had to pry off 4 times and take off the old hardware that was broken. Here is the footboard out in the sunlight. You can see where those new brass pieces are actually offset so they don't hit the old hardware. I know it looks like I made a mistake and put them a little too high, but they're where they're supposed to be. Here's the headboard. Again, you can see right there, they're a little higher than they look off-centered. That's because I did not want to hit the same holes as the old one. Here's the part assembled. I was able to put new spacers on the rails so that way the slats would fit. Labeled everything, put it together. This bed actually has a whole other separate headpiece that will not fit on the headboard because houses now have 8-foot ceilings, not 10-foot ceilings. 10-foot ceilings. My parents have this somewhere in their house. I don't really know where it's at. But the final shot's going to be the weird Ken Burns Photoshop where it kind of scrolls across. There are all these slats waiting for the mattress. Thank you very much.